Thank you all for joining this session, and those of you who are watching the recording. My name is Sud Bimath, and I am part of EBSCO's training team. I've been with EBSCO for quite a while now, over around 20 years or so. So I think I've probably got a lot of experience of sort of questions that you would want to ask, or things that you would want to know about the product. So those of you who are able to attend this live, please do add your questions either by raising your hand or adding them to the chat, and we can go through those as we go through the session. So today we are going to look at the Business Source Ultimate database. And the agenda is looking at how we can search it. So we'll look at things like the basic, the advanced searching, how we can actually refine our results as well, and some of the tools that are available to us, important things such as being able to cite, print, as well as save our work. The folder options where you can personalize that. And we'll also look at things like some additional search tips that you may or may not already know, but can certainly assist you with your research. And finally, we will look at how you can automate that. And then I'll just take you to where there is additional support, where you can find some very short videos that you may also find helpful. So Business Source Ultimate, it's pretty much the most used database across the world for business related content. Now, one thing that stands out to me on there is if we look at the sort of the retail value of the journals that are available to you, you can see it's over $1 million worth of content within this business database. So a huge amount of content that's available to you. You can see some of the publishers on there as well. So hopefully for those of you who are fairly new to it or haven't used it as much, that will at least give you the confidence of the type of content that is available to you. Now, if we look at other content on there, so excluding just that full text content that we talked about, again, it's littered with a huge amount of different options that you will certainly use throughout your research. So things like SWOT analysis, industry reports, company profiles. So there's 1 million plus of those on there. So a huge amount of resources for you to use. So not only journal content, but also non-journal content. So a couple of search options that you can use. Now, again, I appreciate that looking at some of the history of the searches, some of you may already be familiar with this, but of course, there are some who may not necessarily know that they're using this or would like some clarification, but you can use things like Boolean operatives to either narrow down your search, to broaden your search, or to even omit from your search as well. So you can see some examples of what we have on screen now. And further to that, you also have search tips that you can use as well. Now, you probably are fully aware that a lot of research is carried out across the world. And if we're talking about the US as an example, they have slightly different ways of spelling things, color being the example on my third one down there. Now, by using something like the wildcard hash, it means that you would retrieve both sets of results. So the spelling that we use over here, as well as that spelling that is used in the US. And things like quotation marks are useful when you are trying to phrase your searches as well. Okay, so just before we go into a live demonstration, I just had a very quick look at what we call the popular searches. So these are the searches that users are typing in when they first come into the database. So of course we can see some keyword searching there. automotive industry as an example. But you will also see things like an S5 and S6. So maybe some of you are already familiar with that. But just to explain what that is, so that basically is where people are combining their searches. So perhaps you've run, so in that example, you might have run 6 or 7 different searches, and you want to combine search 5 and search 6. And I'll show you how we do that as we go through as well. And it's a really nice way of being able to further your searches from those initial ones that you've done. And my final slide is just really the top journals that have been accessed. Now, I took this over the last 6 months of the database, and of course I appreciate that there were the summer months within there, but again, I think most of you looking at this will probably look at some of those journal names and think, yeah, that's certainly one that I'm familiar with. But those of you who maybe necessarily haven't looked at this, you can see the sort of content and title and subject areas that are available in this database. Okay, so I think that's a good point to stop our PowerPoint and go into a live demonstration. Now, if anybody does have any questions in the meantime, please do add that to the Q&A, and I'm just going to open up the window and then I will share that with you in a moment. So just with me for a second, and you should see that starting to appear on your screen now. So this is our landing page for Business Source Ultimate. So it actually goes into the advanced search screen. And as we can see, we've got 3 search boxes. We've got those Boolean operatives we talked about, so expanding, narrowing down, or omitting from our searches. We can do that very quickly from here. And we also have these drop down options to assist us with perhaps we're looking for a particular field that we want to search. So for example, perhaps we are looking to search for a title from a certain author. This will guide us very quickly to make sure that we can narrow our results down that way. Now you can actually add up to 12 of these search boxes if you want to, just by simply clicking on the plus button. That will just add your additional search options. Now, if we scroll down a little bit, we can look at further search options and some that have been predefined for us. So for example, currently we are set to find all of my search terms. So the keyword that I type in, it's going to find, as long as it can find those words within a certain distance, and I believe the default on here is 5. So as long as it finds my search term within 5 words of each other, it will bring those results back. And I've also got the apply equivalent subject option checked as well. So for example, if I was searching for something like global warming, it would bring back climate change, aviation. So any of those key areas that are closely matched to your subject that you are searching will come back. Now, as we scroll down, we can see a lot of options that we can switch on, either before we start our search or once we've returned our initial sets of results. So I'll just very quickly scroll down and highlight a few of these. Now, whilst the majority of this database has full text content, and when I speak of full text, I mean that you are able to read a complete article or a complete reference material, there is also some abstract information available as well. So some journals will provide you with the abstract, and perhaps you may get the abstract a little bit earlier and then the full text will follow a little bit later. So for what I mean by that is there may be an abstract that's available from a particular publication for, let's say, October 24, and then the publisher will then send us the full text for that, maybe halfway through November. So if you run that search again towards the end of November, you will also get the full text. There are also some journals on there which just provide you with abstract information. Now, of course, that can still be relevant and useful for your search because you get a very detailed abstract. So perhaps, again, if you're maybe doing some research on a particular author, and all you want to do is you want to quote an article that that author has written and then quote a little bit from the abstracts are perfectly useful for that. However, having said all that, a lot of us do like to read full text. So simply by clicking on the full text here, I can make sure any results that come back are always going to give me that link to read the complete article or complete record. And as we go down, you've got things like industry codes. If you're aware of those, you're searching again. I think automotive industry was one that was particularly common. If you know the code for that, you could simply just put that in. And as we go across, you can see other options as well that you may be quite familiar with. Perhaps there's a certain company that's within the automotive industry, let's say Tesla as an example. I can just add that information here as well and run my search. Now, of course, as you would imagine, as you would expect, you can do that as you have your results returned. So let's just run a search for management and leadership. So just by typing in my search terms like this and not selecting any other options, this is what we call an unqualified search. So an unqualified search, and if I just run that, what it will actually do is it will, and if we take result number 1 as our example, so I'm just going to click on that for a moment just to give you a demonstration, or sorry, just to explain why this result has come up. So what we have done is we have run an unqualified search. So the first thing that we are going to do is look at the subject terms that are associated with any given result. The next thing that we will do is look at the title of the actual article itself. Now, if the author has supplied any keywords, or authors in this case, we will look at that third in line, and then we will also look at the abstract information as well. So we will query the abstract, and as you can see in bold where my keywords have appeared, so leadership and management has appeared quite a few times there. So you also have things like the author fields are also they're also queried as well. So for example, if I typed in any of the authors' names, that would have also been queried as well. Now, to get a full breakdown of what we call an unqualified search, you can simply click on this little question mark here, and you will get this pop-out box. And if you go right to the bottom and click on Business Source Ultimate, and you scroll down, you can see it tells us what those defaults are. So it's all authors, all subjects, all keywords, title information, and abstracts. Now, if you wanted to qualify those searches, and we'll look at this in a little bit more detail, I briefly talked about those drop downs, but for example, if I wanted to make sure that I was looking for, let's say, for example, a specific, I think we said author, didn't we, earlier? So if I was looking for a specific author, I could use those drop downs or simply type in AU before the author's name. But as I said, we'll go into an example of that shortly. Our results list. I just got a question in, so let me just bear with me for a second. I'll just check that. Okay, thank you. That's very useful. So, when I was talking about, oh, and typical of a demo, it's actually just logged me out completely. So just bear with me. I will just talk about that while I re-authenticate myself in. Um, so where there isn't full text available, you will actually see that there is an option for you to request that article as well. So again, I will make sure that I show you that in a moment when we do go back to our results page. So let me just reshare that. Okay, so actually, let's run a different search this time, and we'll run a search for marketing strategy. And of course, we're going to get a huge amount back based on this amount of resources that are available here. So as we've got our results, a couple of things that I will explain to you. So the first thing that we can see is we actually have our search history is starting to be stored and created. So we can see the very first search we have run is now defined as search 1. Now, as we go down and look at our results, of course, we've got a huge amount back here, and we've already looked at how we could or how those results, the relevancy of this results list. But as we look at the result as well, we can actually see that we have the start of the abstract. We've got the author information as well as where that was actually produced as well. And we can see the subjects that are associated with that article as well. I've got two options for my full text here, which will open up directly into the database, but you've also got the option to query the link resolver as well. But we can see whenever you have a HTML or PDF, that means it's going to open up directly in those chosen format or the format that you choose within the database itself. Now, to the right of the title, I've got a little folder here. Now, if I click on that, that will now add that particular article to my folder. Now, I do believe at the moment that will just be a temporary folder. I don't think you are automatically signed into a personalized folder. If that is the case, perhaps somebody can correct me on that. But at the moment, certainly for me anyway, I am signed into, or I have a temporary folder. So as long as my session doesn't crash, such as it did before, number 1 and number 2, and thank you for confirming that. So number 1 and number 2 is added to my temporary folder. So as I said, whilst we're in this session, we can use that folder to perhaps store things. And we'll talk about why we would potentially create a more personalized option on that. Okay, so of course we've got a huge amount of results here. So how would we narrow that down? Now you can see on the left-hand side of my screen, I have my filters. So very quickly, I could narrow that down to full text. So what are we aware of? Almost 180,000 plus results. If I narrow that to full text only, so this is only going to be full text that's available in this database. We've dropped some results, but I've still got over 130,000, as you would probably expect with that type of search. I could narrow the date range down as well. So whilst it's great that I've got information as far back as 1923, I might be looking for something a little bit more current. And you can actually see that I already have results for 2025. So again, another advantage of this database is that you will get some content that hasn't actually been published in the journals themselves yet. That will also be available to you. So I could narrow that down. So let's say that I'm actually just looking for the last few years of results simply by doing that, or using that date slider. I actually prefer to type it in. I've still got just over 7,000 results. And I won't go into all of these, but of course you can see just by using these limiters, I could then limit down to academic journals, which will take that down to 2.7. And perhaps more interestingly for me, I might want to narrow that down by particular subject areas. So perhaps again, I'm looking for generative AI. I can check that option there, and suddenly from over 100,000 results, I'm down to 98 results. So very quickly, by using those filters, I could narrow my results down. And of course, you have other options available to you as well. Okay, so let's have a look at, let's actually go into apologies for scrolling now. Let's go into a PDF and open that up. So once we click on the PDF, you will see that the PDF will generally open up in what we call its native format. So as it was produced in the journal itself, but also being native, it means, of course, we've got this high definition result on page, but I can actually copy direct from the text. Apologies for that. I seem to be experiencing a few issues on here. So let's go into another one. So same sort of process. I can copy direct from the text. Now you have tools available to you as well. You have that ability to add it to a Google Drive if you have access to that. You've got OneDrive as well. You can print that, you can email it, add it to your folder, which we have done. Now you have a citation option by clicking on the icon here. You can find your citation option of choice. So let's say Harvard being mine, and I can copy that directly into my references. If any of you use export managers, all of the popular formats are also available as well as things like CSV, if you wanted to download it that way. And you have a permanent link to this article as well. So let's say, for example, that I would like to share this article with all of you. I would simply click on this link here. I've now got this permanent link, and if I was to paste it into the chat as an example, as soon as you clicked on it, it will take you into this article. So again, very, very useful. And again, perhaps if any lecturers are watching this afterwards, and perhaps you're trying to get articles together for a reading list or to add to a Teams channel, this is a great way of linking directly into a result. And I can also download this PDF. As it's a huge PDF, I might decide that actually I'll download this and read this a little bit later. Okay, so back to our results list. Now, of course, we've talked about sharing the individual result. Now, let's say, for example, I would like to share this entire results list. Now, a lot of users make the mistake of copying the top URL. Now, that isn't actually a durable URL. It is a session URL. So what will happen is that URL will only be valid whilst we are in this session. Once I close down this session, that URL will no longer produce a results list. So to actually grab a results list of the entire list, we simply click on share, and then you've got this option here. So do use this permanent URL if you would, for example, like to share a complete results list. So it's not the top URL, it is this one here. This is the one that will enable you to share that. Okay, so a couple of things that I want to just point out using this initial search that we have run. Now, if I go back to the advanced search, when we look at the search modes, of course, we've looked at the ones which are fairly logical and we understand what they do, such as peer-reviewed content or limiting it to full text. But in this option to the right of the top area, you also have this one here, which allows you to search all of the full text in the results that are available to you. So if I actually, and let's just run another one. So let's run one for run one for social media or social learning theories. Let's run that search. And as it stands at the moment, again, I know I'm going to get a huge amount of results back. If I just scroll past here, I've got 7,382. So if you remember, when we looked at the result, we know that it is searching the subject terms, the title, author supplied keywords if available, also the abstract and things like the author fields. But what it's not doing is it is not searching the HTML or PDFs that are attached to the results. So if I go back to that option, so I could either click on advanced search, or if we look down the refine options and click on show more. If I now click on this option here, which is going to search all of the full text that's available, we are going to go from 7,382 to just under 300,000 results. Now, of course, that's not something that I would recommend you to do, certainly from the start, but I just wanted to show you how different the results are when you check that option. So it's that option there. So search within the full text of the articles. It expands it and it searches any full text that you have available as well. So just something I wanted to point out to you for you to use. And again, as I said, by default, it isn't on, and I certainly recommend that is the best way to search initially. But perhaps when you've run your first search and maybe it's not brought back as many results as you were hoping for, that is a very powerful option that takes it outside of things just like the subject terms or the abstract information. Okay, so couple of things that I want to point out before we look at our personal folders. For those of you who are here at the start, if you remember when we looked at some of the popular search terms, they were the combined searches. So this is what's happening as I've been building my searches. You can see that it is also listing those for me. So for example, if I want to now combine marketing strategy with my last search that I've done, I can simply just check them both and search an and together. And then you can see I've now got a search 10, which is search 2 and search 6 combined. And I'd simply click on view results to get back those 79 results. So that's a way that you can start combining initial search terms you put in to get a more refined result, and as said, to advance your searches that you're doing. So let's go back and run a more advanced search now. So as we talked about with the advanced search, you can actually use these field code helps, or if you know the codes, you can certainly put them in yourself. So let's run another search now. So let's run a search for business intelligence. And what I'm going to say is I would like that to appear in the abstract, and the subject that I'm looking for is business management. So I want that to appear as part of the subject term. So by running that, I'm now defining my search. So it's no longer an unqualified search, because what I've actually done is I have defined exactly where I would like my terms to be brought from on those results. Now, if I run that, fingers crossed, that will bring back some results for me. So I can see I've got my 3,460 results, and simply by scrolling down, I have those results presented to me. So other ways that you can also search this database. Now across the top, we've got options such as searching for publications. So when we looked a little bit earlier, I think Harvard Business Review, certainly one that's very, very popular. I can click on publications. If I'm just searching for that, I think some of you have probably worked out that you could actually do that from the search box and use those drop downs. However, if I come into publications and run my search for Harvard Business Review, it's going to bring that back. But you can actually also just search for subjects. So perhaps if you're searching for management journals, you might want to come in here and do it that way. Once you've got your results, it gives you a summary of what's available. So bibliographic being the abstract, we've got that from issue number 1 right up until present. And well, with this particular Harvard Business Review, we've also got the full text to present as well. And then when you click on the title, it gives you information such as how many issues are produced a year. And of course, I can click on the year and go into a volume or issue number as well. And you can see we've actually got some special and summaried issues that have been added to the resource as well. So you can search that way for publications. Perhaps you're looking for company information. Again, with company information, simply can come in. You can actually narrow that down. So perhaps if you're looking for a global company and you want to narrow that down by a particular country, you could do that there. But if you just want to run your initial search for, again, so if we run that for Tesla, run that search, and then you will see I have all of the matches here. So we've got it in the different countries as well. And if I want to go into the main one, which is obviously the one at the top, I can simply just click on that. But again, you can start combining. So you have that ability to combine certain searches on here as well. And if you click on that, you can see we've now got company data. You can expand all of this information about the industry, and remember those industry codes that we talked about as well. So if you know those codes, we could just search that way as well. So you have this information here. And if we go into the next tab, so this is the subject thesauries that are attached to this database. So we have a huge amount of subjects that you can then search through. So for example, if I look into Able Accounting, it will then give you information as to how you can find broader terms that are also associated with that particular term. And by clicking on it, it will then expand that. So I have terms within that as well. So for example, if it was saving accounts that I wanted to search for, the advantage of doing it this way is I can also find those narrower or related terms that are also associated with saving accounts. And by clicking this, I can start adding the ones of interest to me and changing that to an and or an or. And if you start adding that, you will then see it's building a search for you. So it's now including all of those search terms. And if I run that, you can see it's quite a complex search there. You can see there's certainly not one that I would have typed out, but by using the Thesauri, you can build those searches, and I can see the results that I've got there. Other ones that you may want to have a look at and consider things like company profiles as well. So again, if we look at the company profiles, if they come back, of course, you can search. And I think we had the figures at the start. There are literally thousands of these available. But as you go into a company profile, so we'll click on 21st Century as an example, you will get the information that is available to you. And you can also click on the link to get a full result set on that company. And if we go to our source type, we can see that we've got trade publications, product reviews, as well as those academic journals as well. So different ways of searching for content on these databases. Now, of course, most of us are probably going to just use these search boxes that we looked at initially, but hopefully that's given you an idea of how advanced this resource is and how it can really help you if you are looking for a specific thing. You can also look at cited references as well as cited fields. So you've got a lot of options across the top if you want to further your research. Now, what I want to just touch on before we finish up and see if anybody has any questions is the folders themselves. Now, we talked about at the moment, we have a temporary folder, so we can see I've done quite a bit. If I was to log out, of course, I wouldn't have access to any of this again. But if I click on folder here, I can actually sign in to a folder. Now, if you have used any of the EBSCO resources that are available to you through the university, it is the same logon that you would use there. So if you have used, let's say, for example, EconLit, another database you have access to, and you've created a folder, you could simply just log into that folder. If you haven't already created a folder, you can actually see there's a sign in up here. Or if you click on sign into my EBSCO here, it will take you to an option. So if we've not already created a folder, you simply click on create an account. And then you have this very quick form that you need to fill out. And once you have consented to our privacy policy, which is linked here, you can create that account on the fly. Now, just to give you a very quick summary of the privacy policy, it's a cloud-based folder. You're not asked to be added to any mailing list, nor do we add you to any mailing list. As long as you access this folder at least once every year and a half, we will keep that folder active. Let's be honest, if someone hasn't used a folder in a year and a half, they've probably forgotten what's in there. So it's probably easier to just go and create a new one. But once you have filled this in, it will actually create that folder on the fly for you. So let's hopefully I can find one that I can log into. You can see I've got quite a few here. I might actually have to recreate one depending on whether this one has been shut down, but fingers crossed it hasn't. Okay, so that is now signed me in, and I now have a permanent folder. So anything that would have been saved in my folder is now permanently saved. So if I, for example, was to log off and log back on, perhaps at home, I would have access to anything that was in here. So of course, that gives you the advantage of being able to add any individual articles, which we've done there. But we can also save some of these searches. So let's say that was, well, I'd like to take credit for that, but let's say that's a search that I've put together. It's quite complex. Rather than having to recreate that again, I can simply just check the option here, and I can actually just save that search. So I can save that search, give it a description, save it either permanently, temporary, or create an alert for that as well. And I'll come back to alerts in a moment. So I just want to save that search. That's now saved. So when we go back into my folder, you can now see that I now have a saved search. Now, if we go back to our results and let's rerun this search for marketing strategy. Now, as I mentioned as well, with this database, we are constantly getting content from our publisher partners who we have worked with to put this database together with. So as we said, almost on a daily, weekly basis, you will see content is being added to this database as new issues are, of course, being published. Now, rather than me coming back and rerunning this search every week or every day or so, what I can do once I'm signed into my folder, again, I can click on this share option and I can actually just create an email alert. So by clicking on email alert, so this is a text field, so I can change that. I can give it something that's going to be more familiar to me. I can put down, actually, perhaps if I'm working on a project with somebody and I want to include them as part of that email, I can add some email addresses there. You can decide how often you would like that search to be rerun. Certainly with a search like mine, I'd probably do that maybe once a week. And then you also have this option to choose what sort of articles you want to be alerted to. So not only do we add new content to the database, as we are talking to publishers, we are constantly signing up publishers and they're giving us back files as well. So you can actually see, we could rerun this search next week and find that we have content from a year ago. Again, there are different permutations as to why that may happen, but you can see that option is available to you. But what I'm going to say is I just want articles within the last month of my search. So I'm going to click 1 month there. And then I'm simply going to just save that alert. And now when I go back into my folder, you will see I've got my saved search. I've got my search alert as well. Now I can also create an alert for journals as well. So for example, we know that there is a particular journal that I'm interested in. Let's again run that for Harvard Business Review. So Harvard Business Review as my example. I can already see that we have November's edition on there. But what I want to do is I want to be sent a automated email once December's is in there as well. So again, I would click on share here, create an email alert. And if you remember, I said sometimes we do get the abstract, the indexing information before the full text. But this, in my example, I just want to be alerted when the latest full text is available. So I'd simply click here and then save that alert. And as you imagine, when I go back to my folder, that starts building out as well. So that's just one or two different reasons why you might want to create your folder. Not only can you save your items, but you can also start automating your work as well. You actually have options below where I can perhaps start building my own search histories and my search strategies as well. So if I'm searching a particular topic area, I can actually just create a folder. So let's just put that down as marketing. So I can start creating a folder for marketing, and you will see that appears here. Now, if we look at my results that are saved, of course, I can just check any of those and move those. I can either copy them so it stays in the center of my results, or just move them to my marketing folder. And now those two results are moved into my marketing folder. And with that folder, I can also share that as well. So again, using that example, perhaps I'm working on a project with somebody and I would like to share the contents of my folder with them. I can simply do that from here. So add their email address and send them an invite. They will get a code, and providing they have a personal folder as well, that will actually appear under shared by in their folder structure. Now that folder is a read only, but however, they will better read anything that I have added to that, and of course add it to their own folder, but they won't be able to add to my folder, if that makes sense. Hopefully I've explained that clearly there. Okay, so we're coming up towards the end of what I wanted to show you. As I mentioned, the final thing that I just want to take you to is our support site, which is at connect.ebsco.com. In fact, if you go to a web-based search engine and just type in EBSCO support, it will bring you here. Now, from here, what you can do is, of course, you can search for areas of interest. So perhaps it is folders and you want to remember how to create that folder, how to accept a shared folder, or how to share a folder. Of course, you can just come in and you can find articles on it here. So you've got things like tutorials, you've got FAQs, lots and lots of information. You can go to product help as well, and you can come in here and look for specific things like business searching as well. So we can get a link to all of the articles based on things like industry code that you want to use to find certain profiles as well. Tutorials, as we've talked about, for our basic and advanced searching. All of that, you can go in, you can watch that, you can share that as well. So please do bear that in mind should you have any additional questions that perhaps haven't been answered in this recording, but please go over to the support site and you should be able to find what you're looking for there. So I'm now going to stop and see if anybody has any additional questions, or if someone would like clarification on something that I've already gone through, please let me know now.
Just wanted to say thank you very much. It's been really useful, and particularly all the features that you've shown, like the search alerts and things like that, are particularly useful when you're doing a dissertation or a PhD. So hopefully people find that really helpful.
Fantastic, thank you.